All right, guys, back with video number 2. Before you watch this video, if you haven't watched video number 1 on how to start creating your grocery shopping list, I recommend that you go back onto our website, click on the nutrition tab in the bottom left-hand corner, and watch that first video that I did. I'm joined today with our head nutritionist, Brittany Malone, and we're gonna kind of hit this thing from 2 sides today. So the goal of today's video is to talk about, you have the understanding of the meals you want to cook through the week, or at least the types of foods that you want to eat every week. Now, how much do you get when you actually go to the store? I'm going to talk about how it's changed for me now having a family, and that I don't really weigh and measure my food as much as I used to when I was competing. So I use an eyeball method when I go to the grocery store to decide how much actual protein, carb, and fat that I need for the week. Brittany, on the other hand, is trying to be the best athlete that she possibly can. And in order to do that, the main function is nutrition and sleep. And so she's on the other hand of weighing and measuring her food. She's probably taking a scale with her to the grocery store to actually figure out the exact amounts that she needs. So pros and cons to both of these, and we'll discuss both of those.
Sounds good.
Cool. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna start with a basic, what are the pros and cons of just eyeballing when you guys go to the grocery store? So basically, what I do when I go to the grocery store is I do the hand test for the protein, carb, and fat. Hand test, what is that? For myself, I'd make a fist. If I cut off all of my fingers, this size is about the amount of protein that goes on my plate every night or every meal that I eat, okay? So let's take, for example, I have this tri-tip here that we got from Costco. It's been marinating for the last 4 days, and this thing's gonna be delicious. I'm gonna cook it in some oat chips today later on, and it's gonna be so good.
What is it marinating with right now?
Right now we have some Santa Maria rub, we have some olive oil, we have some mint, and some thyme.
Oh.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, exactly. I'm getting fancy now. This is how I've changed now that I've become a dad, is I'm trying to actually make up for lost time with Megan and make good food now instead of, like, I know you talked about it earlier, you were saying that, you just kind of cook for yourself as an athlete, right? And that's what I used to do, so now I'm trying to be a good dad and make good meals for my family. So, okay, let's look at this piece of tri-tip here. Okay, usually these comes in packs of 2 when you go to Costco. If I do the hand test on this thing, I've got about 1, 2, 3, 4, let's say maybe 5 meals out of this thing with the hand test, okay? Now, looking at my receipt, that gives me 5 meals means that tri-tip costs me $5.80 per meal that I eat, okay? Now, if we go about it the way that Brittany would do it, which is actually knowing the exact amount or knowing the exact ounces or grams of protein that you need at every single meal, that would bring my meal cost down to $3.63 per meal. Because I'd probably end up eating a little bit more than I would actually need with that eyeball test. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I'm not even going to lie. I don't go to the grocery store and take a scale with me. I know how much I need to eat, but I don't do that. So I guess I've just learned right now, if I did do that, I would save myself a lot of money, which actually would help me out a lot because that's very valuable for me. But how I do it right now, and I'll kind of backtrack too, is I just go to Costco and I know that it takes me, like, I have an approximate idea in my head because I've been doing this for a little while now. So I know, like, in that week I want to eat probably like around 3 chicken breasts in that week, and I'll freeze everything else. And when it comes time for me to make more, then I'll just pull some out and make some more. But I do go about the grocery store with the strategy, kind of similar to Wes does. So for me, it all started, the very beginning stage of this is like creating a goal, right? So I had the goal for myself that, I want to qualify to regionals as an individual, and we figured, that I needed to stay at the same body weight, but I needed to still fuel myself in order to become a fitter athlete. So that was my goal right there. Keep the same body weight, but metabolize food a little bit better than what I was doing, right? So from there, I got a food log. I kept track of what I was eating, how much I was eating. From there, then I could go ahead and dial in about how much protein I need, how much carbs I need, how much fat I need. And then I go through and I figure out, okay, I have breakfast, I have a pre-workout, a post-workout, a snack, and a dinner. Throughout the week, I try to have at least 3 different types of meat. So I'll try to have like chicken, I'll pick a fish for sure, at least one fish, and then I'll do some sort of like red meat every week. And so I have 3 different sources right there. And then I get that at Costco. And then whatever I don't use, I freeze and I cook those 3 things. And throughout my day, I will have 1, 2, and 3. And that's how I go about my week. The same 3, cook the same things with the same spices. Okay. Same thing with like my carbs. Like I'll pick 2 different carbs that I want to have, a starch and a rice, and I'll just go through those. Veggies, I'll do some sort of leafy green. I'll do something with some sort of color like peppers, and then I'll do like a broccoli. And then the next week, I'll try to do different veggies so I'm getting different micronutrients in, and I'm not just getting the same broccoli each and every week.
Yeah, which can be detrimental if you do that too often.
Yeah, absolutely. But my week is basically all the same thing, because for me, it's just eat what I gotta eat and make it as fast as possible when it comes to meal prepping, not to necessarily eating it, but when it comes to meal prepping, so that I'm set up and I don't have to have that extra stress of anything else.
And before you even began that process, like you said, like you have a basic understanding of how much you should be eating because you spent the time beforehand figuring that out, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can already understand that this is going to be a lot more work in order to even get to the point to understanding how much you should be eating, right? Like, so if you're going to be weighing and measuring your food, there's a lot of back end work that needs to be done first.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just like, hey, I need carbs, and then I just throw a big handful of carbs on my plate.
Or like you're just saying, well, you look like you should be about, 300 grams carbs a day, so I'm going to give you 300. Like,
no, not at all. I was talking to Reed about this earlier. Like, if I was to look at Reed and I would be like, this is going to be well, he's kind of similar to the same size as you, right?
Yeah, he's bigger than me.
A little bit bigger. Yeah. But like, I would say in my eyes, they're almost the same size. But I can't just look at Reed and be like, well, you're the same size as Wes, so you probably eat the same portions as what Wes needs. He has a totally different background, right? Like he is he's not a college student, but he's just out of college, right? Mm-hmm. And he hasn't done, he's done a little bit with his nutrition, but it's not the same background as what Wes already has. Wes has a big understanding of his nutrition. And so Reed might need to start somewhere a little bit different than what Wes does. Wes already knows that his body runs really well off of so many carbs. Reed probably doesn't even know the exact number yet of the carbs that he needs.
So how would he figure that out? What would he have to do first before you even give him the prescription of what he needs to do?
So first he would need to keep a log of what he's already eating. So we already have that background info. I don't want to, if he's already eating like 2,000 calories, but he tells me that he wants to gain weight, and I know that Wes is eating 3,000 calories and maintaining weight, I can't compare him to Wes and be like, oh, well, I'm going to give him 3,000, right?
Totally. He might metabolize foods completely different.
Yeah, exactly.
And just so you guys know, we throw out the word metabolize a couple different ways. It's basically the way that your body processes fuel and uses it to do whatever activity that you're doing. So everybody's going to metabolize food in a different way depending on their DNA structure, how much work they're doing in a single day, their hormone levels, how much sleep they're getting. There's so much that goes into it. But the basic understanding is that there has to be a lot of back end work that starts if we're going to weigh and measure our food. And the first thing is like at least a week's log of exactly what you're doing now, so we get a basic understanding of that. So you guys can already see that the amount of work that's going to have to go into that is way more than just going to the store and being like, oh, okay, this is about 5. Okay. For carbs, what I'll do is basically take my palm as well. And this is like starchy carbs like rice or potatoes or pasta or anything like that. I'll put about that much on my plate. So if I have a bag of pasta, that I'm going to cook for my kids and myself, it's going to be boom, 1, 2, 3, right? Now that's nowhere near as precise as if you were to weigh and measure that and know exactly how much you could. but it might fit my lifestyle a lot better where my time is valuable. I got to get to the store. I know that, this bag is just a little bit, that's about 5 handfuls of pasta, which equals about 5 meals for me. Okay, I'm going to times that by 3 for my family. So I'm going to need 3 bags of this in order to make it through the week, right? Fats, what I'll do is basically make a little hand. Every meal, I get about that many nuts and seeds if I can fit it in my hand. And for me, if I go to Costco and I get a huge thing of macadamia nuts, honestly, it's probably going to go bad in my house because Megan doesn't like eating the same foods every single day. Joey's not eating nuts. I'm at the point now where I'm wanting to explore different foods and enjoy myself too. So I'm not going to make it through that thing. And so I'm finding myself shopping a lot more at Nob Hill than I am actually at Costco, somebody like Brittany who will make it through the thing because she's going to fuel herself and make sure she gets through all of that, right? She's okay with eating the same stuff almost every single day. So a lot easier on my end to just kind of go and get food and eyeball it, right? Again, let's recap. So for what I do is I take a fist. This is my protein. Again, a fist, but not the actual thickness this way. So this way for my carbs, and then about this much for my fats. And that's going to be a normal meal for me. If I'm thinking of vegetables though, like Brittany talked about leafy greens or peppers and stuff, I give myself a free pass on that. So as much of it that I can possibly eat at every single meal, I don't count it in my caloric restrictions or anything like that. So again, we already saw that if I do it that eyeball way, I'm spending about almost $2 more per meal on my meat than if I actually weighed and measured it. I'm okay with that because it gives me a little bit of freedom. I feel like I'm enjoying myself a little bit more. And I'm not walking around with a scale like I used to do that when I would go into the grocery store. And I still will every once in a while. I'll get the bug to weigh and measure my food and kind of get really back on track. And I'm the guy in the grocery store who's got a scale inside of his grocery cart and he's weighing and measuring his apples and everything like that. And I will make sure that everything is completely dialed in. I'm not wasting a single drop of food. So 2 different ways to go about it. Pros and cons of both. So pros of mine is that it's a little bit less stress, right? You can enjoy yourself a little bit more. A little bit easier with a family too. And you don't have to pull out the scale and stuff like that as often, right? Cons of that, you're probably not going to get exactly where you want to be peak-wise athletically or peak-wise aesthetically. I'm okay. I can kind of see my lower abs still, but not really, But I'm happy with the way I feel and the way I look as a dad right now. Pros and cons of yours?
Pros would be that you know exactly how much food you need in order to hit your goals and fuel yourself and get where you want performance-wise and possibly even looks-wise. And then along with that would be, the cons of that would be that you're probably going to be eating a lot of the same meals. It's going to be redundant. But then
it's going to get you where you want to go.
It's going to get you where you want to go. Yeah, absolutely.
What about the cons?
Oh, that you're gonna be eating the same thing. A lot of people just don't want to eat the same thing over and over.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of work on the back end too, right?
It does. It takes a lot of work, and it takes not only that. You have to. A lot of times at the end of the week, I'll look back and be like, okay, how did I feel? And what's my feedback, my biofeedback, and then adjust. And then I have to rethink things for the next week. So it's not just here's what you're eating for a month. It's okay, we have to also look at the data and then adjust things. Totally. So my weekends are even trying to plan things out too. Yeah,
I talked about that yesterday at the Q&A that we went through. It's almost like right when you feel like you've got it kind of figured out and everything's going good, it's probably time to change it up again a little bit. And because that means that food worked to fuel you to get you stronger and faster, which means that now you probably need more fuel in order to get stronger and faster again. So it should be constantly changing. I think almost every single 3 months you should be doing, if you're an athlete, you should be doing about 2 things every 3 months. You should be getting a blood test to see what your micronutrients are at, and you should be probably adjusting your macros in some way for sure. It may be even more than that, maybe even more than every 3 months, but that's a basic understanding. So let's recap really quick. Again, video 1 was talking about just creating a grocery list. The way that I do that is by creating my dinners every single night, which transfer into our lunches the next day, and then breakfasts always stay the same. The amounts, it depends on where you're at in your guys' journey as an athlete and as an individual in this entire world, right? I used to weigh and measure my food like Brittany does now. Now that I'm a dad and a business owner, I enjoy the freedom of not weighing and measuring my food very much anymore and eyeballing it. Pros and cons to that. Eyeballing allows me a little bit more freedom. I feel like I get to eat a little bit better food as far as better tasting. Yeah, and then cons of that is I may be spending a little bit more money than I possibly would, and I might not see my lower abs again.
Yeah.
But oh well.
Yeah. Pros on the side of being precise is that I know that I'm eating exactly what I need to in order to fuel myself and perform to my full potential. Another pro is if I was to take my scale to the store with me like Wes did, I could probably save myself some money.
I think we're going to do that this week. I'm going to take you to the store.
Okay.
We're going to do it.
He's going to teach me, and then I'll tell you how that goes.
Yeah.
How about that? A little science experiment right there.
You get some weird looks for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But the con of doing something like that is that you're not going to be having all these fun, tasty meals, and, your friends, Reed's not going to be able to, I can't cook for Reed all the time because he doesn't like my cooking because it's too bland, I guess. And that, I would say that's like the biggest con right there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. I would say before you even start with any of this stuff, make sure that your sleep is pretty dialed in. From there, I would move to just making sure that you're eating whole foods, right? So we're staying away from anything that's processed. We're trying to get it, basically, if it goes bad really quick or has one ingredient, meaning like an egg is an egg, an apple is an apple, beef is beef, broccoli is broccoli, there's not a nutrition label on it, that would be your next step. Your third step would be what the first video was, like, okay, let's create some dinners for ourselves that turn into lunches, that turn into breakfast, that we don't really even worry about when we're eating or how much we're eating. We're just having a basic plan. And then this would be your next step, is like figuring out, okay, well, now where am I at in my journey? Am I ready to, start to weigh and measure my food, or is it better for me to just eyeball it at this point? And then maybe at some point get to where Brittany's at and start weighing and measuring your food. So, this is going to be video number 2. Our next video, we're actually going to go to the grocery store.
And Wes is going to teach me how to use the scale at the grocery store.
And we're going to look at it from 2 different perspectives of the grocery store, from an athlete's perspective and from just a kind of a lifestyle perspective. When we're at the grocery store, what are some things to look for as far as like good food versus bad food, good prices versus bad prices, stuff like that. If you guys have any questions, comment below, let us know, and we'll be holding another Q&A pretty soon on this video as well. So we'll see you guys soon.